I as of late read the book Look the Best Approach to Ace Nearly Anything by creators Anders Ericsson and Robert Poole. I got this book realizing that Anders Ericsson was the person who concocted the 10,000 hours to dominance rule, yet it turns out the 10,000 hour rule isn't a rule at all. After all, basically doing something for a considerable length of time and hours isn't any ensure that you will improve. Anders says that specialists who have practiced for 20 years aren't any superior to specialists who've been rehearsing for a long time if they feel they've arrived at level of adequate execution. Obviously, a medical attendant says individuals who accept that their aptitudes are satisfactory and esteem all the more exceptionally to endure autopilot are actually more awful inside the non-attendance of conscious practice. Now why is that? Well, conscious practice is basic to propel yourself out of your temperature. What's more, constrain yourself to return up with what he calls mental portrayals. And says what separates master entertainers from every other person is that the quality and the amount of their psychological portrayals. Through long periods of practice they grow exceptionally unpredictable and advanced portrayals of the different circumstances they're probably going to experience in their fields. For example, take a gander at grandmaster chess players. They are largely prepared to play whole rounds of chess blindfolded. After all, the best on the planet somewhere in the range of 1927 and 1935 could play 32 rounds of chess at the same time while blindfolded. To attempt to do so he needed to convey whole chessboard in his memory and move pieces around in his mind, attempting different lines of play. Rock climbers can imagine and experience every development that they are going to make before they attempt and move up a stone face. Golf players can gather an entire line of complex developments that structure the golf swing. Furthermore, reproduce and speak to that swing with one idea or feeling. Masters have accomplished authority since they think of viable mental portrayals that permit them to reproduce whole encounters in their mind, precisely foresee long arrangements of occasions in their area, and consolidate a lot of information into apparently basic mental portrayals. These psychological portrayals tackle the type of wordless pictures and sentiments. Anders Ericsson says that in incredible rest mental portrayals clarify the distinction and execution between learners and specialists. So what precisely is this purposeful practice? Anders discusses also, how can it constrain us to return up with these complex mental portrayals of our specialty? The least difficult spot to appear is at an investigation that Anders did right off the bat in his 30-year profession. Considering master entertainers, Anders selected an undergrad understudy from Carnegie Mellon University named Steve Filuna to come into his office on numerous occasions a week for each hour in turn to focus on a line of irregular digits and rehash them back to him utilizing just his working memory, his quick memory. Each meeting a medical caretaker would give Steve an assortment of digits to review. On the off chance that he got that privilege, he would include a digit. On the off chance that you got it wrong, he would set out 2 digits, so he'd go from 6 to 7 to 8 in the event that he got 8 wrong and come back to 6 to 7. So way he was continually working on the limit between what he could and couldn't do. After around 4 meetings, Steve need to the reason where he could dependably discuss digits, and a lot of studies have indicated that the capacity the human transient memory was around 7 data units. Now by then Steve attempted to improve by 7 meeting numbers. After the meeting that he will hit a stopping point of disappointment, unfit to call in excess of 7 numbers on numerous occasions. But since that was it, experience is back each week attempting to improve. Then it came one day and he was having some fantastic luck, he got 8 and afterward 9, at that point 10 back-to-back numbers, lastly with 11 digits by an end the course. This example of progress hit at the apparent furthest reaches of his capacities, experiencing delayed dissatisfaction, and at that point an advancement occurred. Furthermore, once more it happened to 22 numbers, 34 numbers, and right until after 200 Steve sessions can recollect 82 numbers, 82 or 75 more than he was. It is conceivable around then he did this by instituting what Anders would do. He later reviewed the 4 segments of important practice. First, he had a particular, all-around characterized objective for it. Is brief. It was quite direct. On the off chance that he had the option to notice 13 numbers, he realized his next objective was 14 seconds. For him, the instructional courses were exceptional periods from undistracted center for a whole hour. The emphasis was on attempting to recall third numbers got input after each endeavor. At the end of the day, his notes, it was prompt and straightforward. Either it's actual or it didn't, and at last it was continually pushed out of his usual range of familiarity by working out just on the edge of its abilities, and it is frequently botches. He moves up one climb, At that point back in the event that he comes up short and the organized methodology from intentional practice constrained Steve's psyche to imagine an inventive mentality portrayals of extreme concentration and essentially visit distress. His psyche is adapted to trust that it didn't accompany an imaginative vision he will keep on enduring from that point forward. The clever brain was only that a short time before he has it an imaginative forward leap with an approach to see numbers joined to tree limbs. Was this mental portrayal of build-up and streamline the data on it be sufficiently baffled to discover a document a creative answer for sidestep-bit obstructions in 7 numbers found by an approach to consider 4 to be as a unit in 22 numbers. He had the option to intellectually a gathering of 6 numbers as one unit in, as it were. His cut-off points were specialized. The issue isn't an exertion issue yet. The trial started with Steve and her and other involvement in somebody named Dario, Steve's companion. This time Anders Steve knew Dario his strategy coding numbers with this head start. Dario had the option to show signs of improvement quicker. That Steve got 20 numbers only a couple of meetings since it was ready to receive Steve's outlook portrayals. However, after that point Dario didn't discover Steve's procedures. This works, so we needed to think of it some from his own nation, yet by and by a head start with this system to chip away at Dario. He had the option to call 100 numbers in a transient memory controlled by Anders Ericsson. I found this is an equation. Intentional practice, a deliberate practice. The techniques are notwithstanding, master preparing with this equation gets the ideal recipe for development. So on the off chance that you are burnt out on putting hours and never show signs of improvement at your art, transform your time into a progression of nice training meetings like Steve experience flew and drive yourself to find new mental portrayals in days, and just don't do that, which means you are improving. Authority isn't going to put 10,000 hours on around 10,000 conscious hours practice. Anders says the correct sort of practice completed for a huge scope, a time frame, prompting improvement. Nothing else will be substance. The message I accumulated from the pinnacle. The book was composed by the primary master at top execution, and on the off chance that you like it, discover how far your capacities can go. We enthusiastically suggest picking. Thanks for watch.